Hello viewers, welcome to my Doctor Who themed YouTube channel, Who Ventures, and in this video I'm going to talk about Doctor Who Series 10 Episode 6, Extremis. Now first of all, I'd like to give this episode a 10 out of 10 because it was just amazing. So we get at the start we get a previously on Doctor Who and it shows how the Doctor went blind, and then we come to a planet, not quite sure where it is, if it's Gallifrey or I'm not quite sure where this planet thing is, but it's this big platform and it's got technology where it can basically pause a Time Lord and just stop a Time Lord, and it can just put them in stasis basically and stop regeneration and just capture them, and it's like a quantum chamber. So we see the Doctor being marched to it with these big soldiery guys with elaborate necklaces and big swords and things, and then it talks about the prisoners got to be in this chamber, and then through this door comes Missy, and she talks about how the Daleks were gossiping that the Doctor was on delirium and they thought he'd retired, and then it says the prisoner has got to kneel on this platform, and you sort of expect it to be the Doctor that punishing the Doctor for stuff he did on Gallifrey, but it turns out Missy's the prisoner and the Doctor's the executioner, which is really awe. And so we see in this bit with the platform and the quantum fold chamber, which is the vault where the prisoner is going to be put in stasis and put in the vault, and it's got to be guarded for 1,000 years. So it cuts between the main story and this scene with Missy and the Doctor, and then the Doctor sat outside the vault, and by this point it's revealed that it's Missy in the vault, and there's been a lot of rumour and discussion about who's in the vault, and people have been saying, oh, it can't be Missy, that's too obvious. You should know by now that Stephen Moffat always goes for the most obvious thing ever. He just doesn't, it's just always the most obvious thing. Like, who's this, who's that going to be, and it's always the obvious choice. So of course it's Missy in the vault. And then we see that the Doctor's got an email, and he is blind, but with his sonic sunglasses he sort of has night Tron vision. So when he wears his sonic sunglasses he can read emails. He gets emails, and his surroundings is basically a green outline, and it's basically Tron vision, very Tron this episode. And he gets these cards up when there's a human or something person in the vicinity, and it says male on all the stats, so he gets these cards with the stats of any humans in his vicinity. So he's like not totally blind. So, and then we see the Doctor in this empty lecture theatre, and he's got his TARDIS tech on, and then sorry, it's the family in the background making noises, it's a bit distracting, but And then a priest comes in, walking into the lecture theatre, and because he's trying to be all, oh, I'm fine, perfectly fine, Nardole is sort of covering, it's like, covering for him and covering up for him and noticing things for him. It's like, oh yes, it's called that, yes. So he's not giving away that he's blind. And then this priest talks about Pope, 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 Pope Benedict the Ninth, and turns out Pope Benedict, one of the popes, was a woman. So obviously we've got to have the controversy. Not that's good that way. This is funny. There's going to be loads of stuff on going to be now. But she was a woman to play castanets, and the doctor was like, sort of enjoyed her. And then the Pope turns up and is there, hello, the Pope. And then the Pope's just popping up, surprising people, with his priest, with some priests, because it's about this book called Veritas, which is Veritas equals the truth, and it's been translated, and everyone who's read the Veritas book has committed suicide, and they've got all the bodies were recovered except one, and the Pope wanting the doctor to read the Veritas. Change scene, and we go to Bill's home, and Moira's going out with Howard this time. And Bill's brought home her date called Penny, and Moira's Moira's really against Bill seeing blokes and stuff. But Victor's ironic because Moira seems to be going out with a different bloke every week, so it's a bit hypocritical that she's seen Moira sees all these different blokes, and she doesn't want Bill to be involved with blokes because blokes are mean. So, and then Bill's on a date with Penny, and then we hear the TARDIS noise, and Bill's really pissed off, and Bill said, it's just the pipes, which reminds me, what's it called? Ghost Watch, and Mark Parkinson, and the scary ghost was called Pipes. That I picked that up on when they did the Knock Knock episode, and then in this episode it's the pipes. It's like pipes from Ghost Watch. First one, and Penny, who seems to be not used to dating a girl or being out and having relationships, so Bill's trying to reassure her, says there's nothing to feel guilty about, it's okay. And then the Pope walks in and it's funny, and Penny's like, that's the Pope, that's the Pope. And then Bill goes into her bedroom and she finds the Pope and loads of priests and the TARDIS, and Penny's scared and runs off. And then Bill walks into the TARDIS, starts telling the doctor off about disrupting this date with Penny. And then Nardole's explaining to Bill what's going on. And then the camera moves over, and we as viewers move over to see what the doctor's doing, and he's got this gadget thing. We can't tell what it does yet. And then the priest puts his hand on the doctor's shoulder, says, we know you need to confess stuff. The Catholic Church will listen to you. So, and then we cut back to Missy, because that bit apparently relates to this bit where Missy was getting punished. And then a priest has turned up, with a hooded priest has turned up, and the other guards, the sci-fi guards, say it can have divine intervention for 5 minutes. Well, that was funny. Then the hooded priest turns up, and it turns out it's Nardole in disguise, and he's got River's diary, and he's been sent by River to kick the doctor's arse. and then we're in the TARDIS, and we have Doctor's blind, but why is he keeping it a secret from Bill? And then Nardole says, well, because you'd have to deal with it. And Nardole's been really firm with the Doctor. And then we're back with the priests they're outside the Forbidden Library, and there's a thing where it says, may God light your path. And they're outside this library. It's called a Hereticum, and the Pope that made the library has painted on the door to the library, and she's a beautiful lady, and it's gorgeous. And then Nardole's like, oh, you like, Nardole's a shot at the Doctor because he's like been getting on with this woman. And then they go in the library and Bill's like, oh, wow, it's like Harry Potter. And then the Doctor says, nope, stop swearing. And then there's another thing where it's saying, in darkness we are revealed. And then we go back to the scene with Missy's punishment, and Missy's begging the Doctor and saying, I am your friend. And I thought that was so sweet because she looked genuinely upset. And then she says, without witness, without hope, without reward, she wants the Doctor to teach her to be good. And then we go back to the Nardole, Dr. Bill and the priests, and the priests and the Doctor saying these sayings, and Nardole says, oh, you two be good at Christmas cracker jokes. So that was fun. Then the Doctor's got his sunglasses Tron vision, and then there's a bright light which the Doctor can't really see. So Bill and Nardole, they go round to see what it is, and it's a light that's in place of the wall. And the priest goes to check for a breach in the wall. And there was a bit in the trailer which wasn't actually shown in the episode, where there's a mummy hand reaches out and grabs the priest by the throat. But this seemed to have been cut from this episode, even though it was in the trailer. So I'm a bit confused by that. And then there's the cage with the Veritas in, and the person who translated the Veritas, and they have to sit in this chair that holds them on, so they can't go off and do themselves in. But the priest has got a gun, and he's got escaped from the cage. And Bill tries to run off after the priest, but Nardole stops her because she'll get lost. And then Bill finds looks, and there's Wi-Fi in the library, and this priest who translated it, he sent Cern a copy of the Veritas, and Cern read it, the physicist at Cern read it, and the email they sent back was, pray for us. And then the Doctor's saying, particle physicists and priests, what are they both scared of? Then the translator priest is shot himself. So the Doctor sends Bill and Nardole to explore, to look for the priest, because they hear this gun go off, and the Doctor sends Bill and Nardole off to see if the priest's alive. Now while they're gone, the Doctor's got his gadget out, and then Bill's arguing with Nardole because she wants to just storm ahead and go see what's happening, and Nardole's going, no Bill, you've got to accept instructions, you've got to listen to us. And Nardole's being a badass, but he's also a bit scared. I love that. I thought Matt has done a really excellent job in this episode. And then the Doctor, who's got his fixed Sonic, and he's got this gadget and he wires it to his forehead. It's basically seems to be a sort of electroconvulsive therapy sort of gadget where he's trying to electrocute part of his head that could. And what this machine does, it borrows moments borrows something from his future to try and fix his eyes. But he doesn't know what's going to happen, so it could like stop his regeneration, or he could have all the future doctors be blind, or it just takes something from his future apparently. And then we cut back to the Missy thing, and Missy saying, I am your friend, please help me be good. And then the doctor says, as a Time Lord from the Pridonian chapter, I take this oath to guard this body for 1,000 years. Because at this point, Missy has seemingly been sort of killed and she's lying on the floor. So he takes the oath to guard the body. And then there's Bill and Nardo. They find themselves in, because this big space where it's all white and there's portals all around. And they find themselves on floor 3 of the Pentagon. And it's like, and then they go back into the portal room, and then they go through another portal door, and it is a drunk scientist at CERN. And I have to say the actor who played the drunk scientist is gorgeous. He's so fit, and I want to draw him. He's amazing. He's gorgeous. And then we go back to the doctor, so it flips between scenes. So this episode flips between what Bill and Nardole are doing, what the doctor's doing, and the doctor and Missy. And then the doctor has sort of got a bit of vision back, as fuzzy, and there's a scary monk there, but he still thinks it's the priest because he can't actually see it properly. So he says that he borrowed from his future to fix his eyes so he can read the Veritas. And then there's because he was in the chair where you strap yourself in, he's saying, this chair would be useful for some stories like Moby Dick. It's like, shut up, just get to the whale. And so I thought it was funny. And then it's a scary monk, and the monks say, this is a game. And I have to say, the makeup on the monks, you could sort of see it bending on the face of it, so. But it was still good. And then the doctors start running off, and then we cut to Bill and Nardo at CERN, and the scientists all sat round, and they're going to blow themselves up because there's like dynamite all under the tables, and Bill's terrified. Then we cut back to the doctor, and he's looking at an email, and it's got the Veritas translation on, but it's blurred, so he can't read it. Then the monks start chasing him, and then there's a bright light. Then we cut back to CERN, and the drunk scientist says, right, blowing themselves up with saving the world. And then he says, because they aren't in this world. And then he does this game where he taps a table, and everybody has to say a number. And starts off with just Bill and Nardole, and they both say 36. And then they both say 17, and they both say 9. Every time he taps the table, they have to say a new number. And I tried to keep up writing the numbers down, because I thought maybe they could be lottery numbers, but you went too high for that. You only got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers that you can feasibly use as lottery numbers. And then everybody else starts joining in, and they're all saying the same number, and it's the shadow test. And then there's a countdown at CERN, and by the end of the countdown it just goes white, and then Nardole and Bill are back in the portal, the portal room, which is all white, and Nardole's starting to panic, and there are blood spots on the floor, and Bill's wondering where they come from. Then Nardole figures it out, that those worlds in through the portals, the holographic simulations, that they are simulations and it's like virtual reality. And then Nordal figures out, hang on, I think we're in a simulation, and there's this bit in the middle of this room, and he says, what if we move away from the projection? And it goes all Tron. It's amazing. And he puts his hand through, and it's just the graphic interface of the grid pattern of it, and then it turns out he has a simulation and he gets pixelated, and it's like, and I was sad, I was scared, and it's all gone. It all goes a bit Tron with the graphics, and it felt kind of meta. It felt like because they're fictional and Moffat's wrote this, and their characters in a show. And then Bill finds the White House Oval Office, and I guess it's sort of like dreams too, because in this episode, it's sort of just Bill and Nardole. We don't actually see him get to these places. It just cuts to these, like, cut into different scenes, so it's a bit like dreams as well. Bill is in the White House Oval Office, and the doctor's at the desk, and he listened to the Veritas, because this computer had read it out like an audio book, and the Veritas book tells of an evil demon who wants to conquer the world, so he made a simulation to test it out. It scared me because I really don't like the computer simulation theory of our existence, the theory that we're all in a computer simulation. I hate that theory, it's scary. And then the alien life form, to make sure you can take over the Earth successfully, he runs a simulation and assesses all the people, especially all the people who figure out that they're in a simulation. And I wrote in square brackets, I hate this, too freaking scary. And then the shadow game is that if they're in a simulation, they all generate the same numbers. And these simulated people, what they're doing is they're escaping the game, and they're deleting themselves. I just lost the game. They're deleting themselves from the game, so it's like, and he's saying stuff like Mario and Grand Theft Auto is like the people realising they're in a game, and they've this existential feeling of knowing they're not real, so they delete themselves from the game, and then we find out that Bill is starting to not be real, and she like deletes from the game. And then the doctor is like, the doctor in this simulation is not real either. And then there's in the scary monk turns up, and then this excellent line, you don't have to be real to be the doctor. Well, that was amazing. And then he says, he catches him out, this simulation is just too good, which means he can send an email to the real him from inside the simulation, and he emails through to his sonic sunglasses. And then we're back, and then we see real Bill at home, and the doctor rings up and says, something's coming, Bill, are you with Penny? And he says, no, right, because Bill's saying she's out of my league, and the doctor says, get Penny round, get her on a date. I don't quite know what the doctor's plan is there, because like something bad's coming. And then there's a big painting in the vault. I couldn't quite see what it was. I wonder if it was Clara. but there's like paintings in the vault. Maybe one of those was the Pope lady. And then the Doctor is outside the vault and he's asking for help from Missy, because Missy is alive, because we cut back to the execution scene and turns out Missy's actually alive. And then the Doctor tells the priest with the necklace to see how many times the Doctor's died, and it's adding on, the priest, the executioner's got this watch gadget thing, and every moment the Doctor died, it does a beat, and it's just going crazy. It's going because I think that was like adding on all the lives he's did in what is it, Heaven Sent or Hell, I forget which way round they are, Hell Bent or Heaven Sent. Well, all them lives, I think it added them on too. And then this priest guy with the gold stick, they're all scared. So, have a nice day then. I thought that was funny. That was funny. And then something's coming, Missy. So he sat outside the vault with Missy in the vault, and something bad is coming, and this bad thing ran this simulation to figure out its plan. So that episode was amazing. Because I saw a preview of the bit when I thought it was going to be like puzzles, like with one of the, I think it was Pertwee episodes where there was like a diamond floor and you had to step on the right diamond, but it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but it was really cool, and there was a lot of classic, it reminded me of Classic Who a lot. So it was really cool. I thought it was scary, because I thought some of these episodes, because they had a bit of a moment with the Saigon two-part in previous series that I forgot, was that series 8 or series 9? Well, anyway, the Saigon ones, I got really upset and scared, but this is not as sad, not as scary, and not as existentially scary to me, this episode. I thought I was going to be more upset about it, but it is still scary. So, wow. So I give this one a 10 out of 10, because it's just amazing, very wow. So I hope you have enjoyed this review, and thank you for watching. Yay!